Now it's time for the Winthrop Coaches Show, live from Buffalo Wild Wings. Join us throughout the season at BW3 off Dave Lyle Boulevard by the Galleria Mall. Send questions for men's coach Pat Kelsey and women's coach Kevin Cook via Twitter using the hashtag WooCoaches. That's hashtag WUCoaches. It's time to talk hoops. Here's Dave Friedman and Mike Pacheco.
94 days before Selection Sunday, a pleasant good evening. Thanks for joining us at Buffalo Wild Wings here off of Dave Lyle Boulevard in Rock Hill, joined by women's coach Kevin Cook. Men's coach Pat Kelsey comes up at the bottom of the hour. The Winthrop Eagles are engaged in final exams right now and at the same time trying to improve their basketball teams. If you want to improve your knowledge of Winthrop basketball, send us questions for Coach Cook and for Coach Kelsey on Twitter using a hashtag WooCoaches. That's hashtag WUCoaches. We're here at Buffalo Wild Wings. Great opportunity to enjoy a good meal, 65-cent boneless wings on Thursdays and 3-hour happy hour domestics. Hope you'll have an opportunity to join us during the hour. Women's coach Kevin Cook joins us now. You're preparing for the Davidson Wildcats on Saturday, but how much of an obstacle is it to prepare for an important game in your schedule and let the kids concentrate on their final exams?
Well, you said it in a nutshell. They're here first and foremost to get an education. And so we want to give our players the proper amount of time that they need to focus on that huge piece. And so we have cut our practices shorter this week and try to be as efficient as we can, because Davidson is a very formidable opponent, member of the A10 conference, and
sounds weird.
It does. And so hopefully we'll see good results. We've got good students, as I mentioned on past shows. You know, we had 10 make the President's Honor Roll. We're very proud of that. For the past 3 semesters, we've been above a 3.2 GPA, and we hope that continues.
You've played 3 Power 5 conference teams. You've acquitted yourselves well in each of them, beating Auburn. Played well against Tennessee, except for some turnovers. That could have been a different game. And then against Ohio State, led at the half, 27-26. When you look back at the game, what was the difference between that first half where the Eagles led and the second half where Ohio State was able to come back?
A scoring drought. We went over 5 minutes without scoring a field goal, and we can't afford those kind of droughts against anyone, let alone Ohio State. And you know, those are the kind of games you wish that they were over after a half, but unfortunately they make you come out and play another 20 minutes. And you know, except for that stretch, you know, I thought we outplayed them, and it was I think, valuable learning experience for our young club. We've had many of them. I don't want to have many more losing lessons, but I think, you know, we've had enough of those now. But anyway, it was a great trip. It was a long trip, but, you know, you get out on the road like that, you get to spend time with your team. The players get to spend time with each other, and you don't have as many distractions. Plus, there's not much else to do on the bus except study. So that was a good thing, because the movie we tried to play, it just kept skipping, man.
Are you kidding? With smartphones, you think those kids were hitting the books for however many hours that was?
Yeah, but you didn't ask them what the movie was, Dave. It was An Officer and a Gentleman.
Oh, and classic.
And Coach Cook stepped in, got the Academy Award. He had to role play a couple of the couple of the parts.
Yeah. Impressive.
A couple of scenes.
Go ahead, Paula. Go ahead.
When you look at your team defensively, you held Tennessee underneath their scoring average. You held Ohio State 15 points under their scoring average. Are you feeling positive, confident about your defense? I know that coaches always say they can do better defensively, but do you like where your team is playing defense right now?
I love our defense when we have more points than the opponent. I'm always concerned about our defense. Coach Matthew Huddleston is kind of our defensive coordinator, and he does a great job with our defense, but it's something that I'm concerned with daily. You've give up something in our particular defense, and so we just work on our slides and drill our closeouts daily and hope we can continue to get better. An area that I'm even more concerned with in the defense is the rebounding. I mean, we're 10th or 11th in the conference in rebound margin and nowhere near where we want to be rebound-wise, and we've got to get better at that quick, fast, and in a hurry.
We've talked a lot about keeping Shaquilla Nunn on the floor. The Eagles center is a big part of the offense, and you could see when she left, it was a different complexion in the game. It's kind of a tough question because it's dependent on other people, particularly people wearing stripes. But how do you keep her on the floor and keep her out of foul trouble?
Well, that's a good question. We've continued to look at film and continued to work with Quila in our practices on what could be perceived as a foul and what is not. And, you know, they catch her a lot with breaking the plane, and that's a hard thing to do. I mean, because it's very unnatural to get your hands up and back. You know, not many people can do that. And so, you know, naturally she's going to get called for some of those. But even though she's a great shot blocker, she's going to have to pick her spots, you know, to go after some blocks. And
how do you teach that? When does she go for a block? When does she try to take a charge? When does she let a opponent go by?
Well, that's got to be her feel, and that's got to be her judgment. I mean, we have different drills where, you know, we work on that, where we drive right at the rim, and she makes a decision, you know, to go for the block or to lay off. But, you know, when the lights come on and it's game time, ultimately she's got to be the one to make that decision. And her decision making is going to get better. I'm very confident about that.
For a player that gets in foul trouble, can you segment it and say you need to be more aggressive in the last 5 or last 10 minutes of the game instead of the first 5 or first 10, or do you take a player out of their game by doing that?
Yeah, I think you, in this case, would be taking Quila out of her game, and we've got to let her play her style of basketball all game long now. Again, it was very physical at Tennessee, and, you know, she got in a tad bit of foul trouble, but played a ton of minutes, was able to play a ton of minutes.
Yeah.
So she can play very well with 3 and 4 fouls. I just don't want to see her do it much more often.
One of the bright spots, that was the play of Aaliyah Kilpatrick. Some big buckets. She carried the team in some important stretches against Ohio State.
She did, and we're asking Aaliyah to do a lot of things. We're asking her to make plays for others and distribute and be a facilitator, and at the same time score the basketball. She really prefers the off guard, you know, the shooting guard position, and maybe we'll be able to bring Jamisha Banks along and let Leah slide over and get some more time at the 2-hole, and that could be something we're going to look at. But you know, Aaliyah's done a fine job for not having played a second last year. She's shaken the rust off, and she looks to be in fine form.
When you look at Erica Williams, she's putting up more shots. The shooting percentage down a little bit, not terribly, but down a little bit from last year. Is she trying to maybe press a little bit, trying to fill the void of a player like Taquisha McClannon?
We've talked about that, and I think she feels the urgency to score and pick up the slack a little bit, especially when Quila's out. Let's face it, both of those are high percentage shooters. Quila has been at 57%. Erica's been at just below 50%. And so they need to score for us. And I want Quila to take between 15 and 20 shots a game, and that's no secret. You know, if anybody's listening to that and thinks they're getting a new nugget for their game plan, I mean, this is something we're trying to do. And like I say, I'm not trying to hide it from anybody. We need her to take between 15 and 20 shots.
This is our last show of the calendar year here. We'll be radio only next week and then off for the holidays. And by the time we get back to our coaches show, we'll be talking about the conference season, and we'll be right in the thick of a game every couple of days. And where is your team right now compared to where they were at this stage last year?
Still searching for our identity. I mean, last year at this time, we knew who we were. You have a veteran like DeQuisha McClanahan, and everybody just kind of plays off of her. Here, this season is totally different. We're having great effort in our practices, and it's a fun team to coach and a great group to be around. I'm really proud of our players. We're nowhere near where we're going to be, and that's exciting. It's kind of troubling at times during these stretches because we're still probing, still trying to find our way. But that's all going to happen, and again, I'm excited that, and I'm sure our players are very excited that the final exams are nearly complete. And this is a time during the break when they come back after Christmas, those 2 weeks where you don't have any classes, where you can really put some hay in the barn. And that's what I'm looking forward to, and hopefully they are also. And to me, that's when you make your biggest strides as a basketball team.
When you look at trying to, and it's difficult to do this, but when you try to replace a player like DeQuisha McClanahan, it's not going to happen overnight. But the good news for your team is I think there are several players that we could point to that are trying to be that go-to player late. And it's good to have options, and they're still trying to learn that DeQuisha's not here and trying to figure out how to move forward.
Yes, and you're right. This is not a quick process, and we knew it was going to take some time, and it has. But each and every day we're getting more and more comfortable, and every day in every way we're getting better and better. We're, like I say, we're practicing hard, and we're showing a lot of effort, and players are getting in the gym, outside of practice time, and so they're doing everything we ask and more. And when you do that, good things are going to happen. We just wish they would happen sooner rather than later. But in the end, like everybody knows in the Big South, this is a one berth league for the NCAA tournament, one bid, and it's all going to come down to Myrtle Beach Madness. So really everybody's trying to peak for that time.
Well, we talk a lot about playing different styles. We've already seen that. You'll see a little bit more coming up here. We'll talk about the Davidson game. We'll also talk about how maybe what's already happened will help you moving forward in conference play. But that's all I had here at Buffalo Wild Wings. Alongside Dave Friedman, I am Mike Pacheco. Coach Kevin Cook joining us along as well. We'll take a quick time out here on the Winthrop Sports Network.
Christmas is merry with the
Show 65-cent wings here on Thursday night, so a great opportunity to get some great basketball knowledge and some great food. Women's basketball coach Kevin Cook joining us, Dave Friedman alongside. I am Mike Pacheco. Maybe when Coach is done and before we bring in Coach Kelsey, Coach Cook will be available to reenact scenes from An Officer and a Gentleman. He likes to.
I like that he brings goodies, though.
Yes,
I
we
guess
do
it's
have.
over here.
Yep, we do have a poster that we're going to give away here, signed by all members of the Winthrop women's basketball team, the defending Big South Conference champs.
Show it to our audience watching online. There we have it. You can
And
now
as
watch
Richard-
our show as
Yes.
well as listen to it. So you can go to the Winthrop YouTube channel and check out what we look like. I prefer just listening. I don't think it's a great visual medium, but if someone wants to look at the three of us, so be it.
And as the young Richard Gere said, an officer and a gentleman, when he was getting really worked over by Louis Gossett Jr., I got nowhere else to go. I got nowhere else to go.
This show has gone off the rails.
Hey, I mean, Academy Award potential right there, no doubt about it. But we talked about the schedule, and you play, you beat Auburn, you play a ranked Tennessee team, Ohio State. We'll also be seeing Wichita State coming up soon with George Mason. Up next is Davidson. Before we get to Davidson, when you look at this, and I know part of putting the schedule together, Coach, was to give this team different looks and toughen them up and get them ready for the conference season. How do you feel so far that has prepared your team moving into conference play?
Well, it's worked perfectly. I mean, we've been challenged in each and every game, that is for sure. We've played some very difficult opponents. I think our strength of schedule is in the 70s, and that's very good. Davidson is no pushover either. I mean, they played in their conference championship game against Chattanooga last year to go to the NCAA tournament. We played them at their place last year. It was a high-scoring affair. I felt very fortunate to get out of there with a win. That was a game where we scored 50 points in the first half. And that's a game where DeQuisha McClanahan had 29 and Erica Williams had her career high of 26. So where are those points going to come from? We'll find a way. But Davidson they're long, they're tall, they're very well coached by Michelle Savage. She does an excellent job with them. They have played top 15 teams in the country this year as well, being Rutgers, at Rutgers. And they've taken care of at least one opponent in the Big South. They're led by Hannah Early. Hannah Early is a very, very potent scorer. And they have an athletic freshman that they've added from state champion Myers Park over in Charlotte, Sadia Tipton. So those are a couple to keep your eye on. And I hope we can cut into their action, and the folks will come out. Remember, the game Saturday is not an afternoon game. It's a Sunday evening game at 7 o'clock. So come on out and enjoy that game.
So Saturday at 7 o'clock, is that time change probably due in part mostly to finals?
Yes, final exams, and that's the reason. And I'll tell you, I like a 7 o'clock game because that's when our conference games are, but it sure makes for a long wait.
When you play at Davidson, last year you played Charlotte in South Carolina. Is it meaningful to play local regional opponents?
I think so. You know, your fan base can relate, and they're very familiar with those schools, so I think it's a natural. We were actually working on the schedule today for next season, and we've got some interesting things that we're trying to cement and secure.
Mike's hoping for a 3-game trip to Boston. How's that coming?
Not going to happen.
I'll settle for the Bahamas.
Not going to happen.
Looking at Davidson, last year was a 91-76 game. You talked about a high-scoring affair. Coming back here, they have a little bit of a different look as well. You mentioned the Tipton, the freshman. She's coming off not a high-scoring effort, but she's kind of a high-energy player. They do have some experience on this team. When you look at McCabe, who came off the bench and gave him 20, it's kind of interesting. She was a starter last year, and this year she's been a big player off the bench.
Well, that speaks to the depth that Davidson has, and they run a triangle offense, and I don't know how much they'll be able to run that against our zone, but they ran it a bit against our zone last season, and they've got talented post players, and they know their roles. And we've just got to find a way to be consistent with our scoring. I think our defense is going to be there. I think that we can rebound with them, but we'll have to avoid any scoring droughts, and find a way, as they say, to put the biscuit in the basket.
And it's good to come home and have a home game on a Saturday night, especially coming off finals.
Exactly, and I hope all our fans come out. I hope we can get a lot of new fans to come out. I mean, there's really nothing happening. I think all the high school football done, everything's done. Come on out to the Coliseum at 7 o'clock. I'm gonna make my pitch right here, right now.
You were talking about scheduling. When you look at next year and going forward, how much of it is we'll bring in Davidson? People in the community know that name. Davidson will bring some fans because it's a short trip over.
And Auburn will be coming in next year.
That's right, and so that's a paramount what we're looking at, and that's why we want to keep things going with the North Carolina Centrals. Get something going with maybe South Carolina State, who we played in the past, and if we could get South Carolina, I know they're number 1 in the country, but it'd be nice to have them come to the Coliseum.
Should we use it not going to happen the way you said it just a couple minutes ago?
It probably would be appropriate.
Well, you mentioned it, playing the regional games. How important is it when you look at some of these travel games that we've had in the past? A couple years ago, it was going to Mexico. This year, the big trip was to Ohio State. A lot of time to bond. And for a team that's maybe trying to find themselves, how important is it to have that time together outside of school, away from everybody, and just kind of being able to develop that chemistry?
I think it's important because people talk about home games. There's distractions. There's some ticket requests. There's different things going on. When you go out on those extended road trips where you might not have as many fans to follow you, that you look at your team and you say, hey, look around. We are all we have. And so, let's go in there. We've got each other, and let's fight because, like at Tennessee, we had 10,000 against us. At Ohio State, we had 6,000 against us. And, that's what I like, and I think our players like that. They like to be appreciated for their efforts, and it's kind of fun playing in front of those kind of packed houses. I've heard you talk about a couple men's road games, and Dave, you say there's 200 or 300 people in there. I was like, my gosh, women's basketball must be doing something because we played in front of 6,000, 10,000, 3,000. I like it.
When I worked at Vermont, Tom Brennan was at the end of his tenure with the Catamounts. And the last couple of years, he started scheduling games that he just wanted to play. And he had never played at Duke, so he scheduled a game at Cameron. He had never done a game at Kansas, so he scheduled the game there. Are there a couple of gyms, and I know there are a zillion factors about recruiting and the cost of getting the different games, but do you look at any gym or any team and say, I want an opportunity to play against them?
Yes, my travel team played Gino in Connecticut at Gamble Pavilion. I would love our players to experience that environment, that atmosphere. I think it was outstanding for them to experience Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would love for
I still
them.
have Rocky Top in my head.
Yes. I would love for them. I mean, there's not a whole heck of a lot to do around University of Connecticut, but I mean, there's nothing like it on game day. And
tour of ESPN.
You could do that.
And you could also schedule some teams that, you give yourself a chance to win so you can,
take an extended trip, and that's usually balmy weather there in December, so I think we could make
November.
that happen.
Do it in November. November's a little bit better. When you looked at Tennessee, that team had 8 McDonald's All-Americans on that squad. I think there were more McDonald's All-Americans on that team than there were McDonald's in Knoxville. We just saw another McDonald's All-American, Kelsey.
Wow.
How important is it for your teammates to kind of gauge themselves? I mean, I thought they acquitted themselves well against both teams, but to go up against the not just the top programs and venues, but these are some of the most highly recruited. Kelsey Mitchell is the highest recruited point guard in the country last year.
Yes, no doubt in my mind. I love Asia Wilson over at South Carolina, but Kelsey Mitchell is the freshman of the year so far. She's the nation's scorer, as I said. She's WNBA ready right now. And a funny story, I come in at halftime. I'm looking down the box score, and I'm talking to my team, and I said, well, Mitchell's got 17. And I think one of our players said, What? She's got 17. How did she get 17? Taylor Calvert said, it was a quiet 17.
But in that game, I mean, you held Amherst Austin quiet in the first half. I mean, you knew Mitchell was going to score. The key was trying to keep everybody else from scoring points in that game.
Yeah, we did that, but we let that get away from us just a little bit. And, you know, if you have those lapses and we didn't close out as hard or as quick as we needed to, I mean, we held Kraft down, but as you said, Alston got it going a little bit in the second half, and that was the difference. But, you know, you're playing a Big Ten school, you're playing a Southeast Conference school, you've got to bring it the entire 40 minutes.
How special was it for you? You're from Ohio. Your mom was able to make it to the game. I think you had probably a bigger pass list than normal. It was kind of a good representation of Winthrop fans at the game.
Yeah, that was neat, and the outpouring of love, it really meant a lot to me. I mean, I had ex-high school teammates there, ex-college teammates there, my college coach, friends, relatives, and, you know, Urbana University, where I went to, brought a bus to the game, and it was a magical thing. It's like my mother told me the day before. She said, you better win with all these people coming. Well,
No pressure.
No pressure, Mom.
It's sad we let them down, but I mean, they all stayed afterwards and received us and received our team. And so I will say this, with Ariane Whitaker, us signing her and her being from Lakota West, and she started off her senior year like gangbusters. And we'll be going back there to Ohio 3 of the 4 years so she can go back and play in front of her people. And also, hopefully, we can continue to attract the talent in the state of Ohio. You know, Georgia's been a happy hunting ground for us. We're going to go back there, and you know, great players want to play with other great players, and everybody in the state's aware of Ariane Whitaker.
Massachusetts is underrated.
I guess.
Doesn't sound that way.
No, I'm just kidding.
When you look at where your team is, and you said that last year you kind of knew the personality at this stage because you had the 3-time player of the year in DeQuisha McClanahan. What are the areas you're looking to build upon between now and when the next conference game comes around?
Great question. We've got to shore up our rebounding. We've got to become a consistent rebounding team. We've got to continue to take care of the basketball. And like I told our team, I said, and I've told them this many, many times, I said, but the key to winning basketball games is getting more shots than your opponent and getting better shots than your opponent. More and better. I said, how do you do that? Number one, you rebound the ball, okay, so you get more opportunities. Number two, you don't turn the friggin' ball over, okay? You do those two things, you get a shot. Every time you get the ball, then chances are you're going to have a great shot at being successful.
All right, well, we do have this poster to give away. So first person who comes up and says they want it, we'll give that away. And hope you come out to the game on Saturday night. Women will be playing Davidson at 7 o'clock.
Whoever wants an autographed poster, come on up. It's a great shot. And let me tell you, Diego came up. We're over here at Buffalo Wild Wings, and come on out. 65-cent boneless wings.
Yeah, the question is that going to be in Diego's living room, or is it going to go up here at BW3?
Oh, good question.
He wants more. He gets something for free, and he wants more. That sounds about right.
We can work that out, Diego.
All right, more to come here at Buffalo Wild Wings. Men's head coach Pat Kelsey joins us here with Dave Friedman. I am Mike Pacheco, and you're listening to the Winthrop Coaches Show here at Buffalo Wild Wings on the Winthrop Sports Network.
Dave Lyle Boulevard in Rock Hill over by the Galleria Mall. This is our Winthrop Coaches Show. Glad you're with us. 65-cent boneless wings here at BW3's. $3 happy hour domestic specials, 25 different wing sauces, all here at Buffalo Wild Wings. Our show next week is radio only. The teams will be on the road. The women are in Wichita, Kansas. The men will be somewhere between Auburn, Alabama, and Hammond, Louisiana, 2 real garden spots. But they'll be home, the men, to take on Reinhardt December 21st. The women are home this Saturday against Davidson, and there are tickets available. 803-323-2345, 803-323-2345. The Big South Conference season is coming, and we hope to have you at the Coliseum. You can also get tickets online at winthropeagles.com. The men's team is 4-4 on the year. They beat Morris Hill 96-51 the other night. You went back and watched the tape, as we're joined now by men's coach Pat Kelsey. What did you learn?
Well, as I told you after the game, we made a concerted effort to throw the ball inside, and we came out the first 3 or 4 possessions to get post touches and to really concentrate on playing inside out and attacking the box. I think it's 37 free throw attempts we had, and that was our mentality of attacking the box off drives and post feeds and offensive rebounds. That was a very, very good rebounding team we played. They were plus 10 on the glass on all their opponents, and they played some very good Division II opponents. And we came out, I think, plus 14 on the glass. So we really wanted to dominate the physicality of the game, whether it's attacking the box, the rebounding statistics. We took 3 charges, which is very, very good for us. So in that respect, I was happy and I was proud of our guys.
How does that translate to now playing in Auburn or Southeastern Louisiana, or when the conference comes around?
How does it translate?
Yeah, I mean, you played against a Division II team, and you played very well, and you won, and everyone's happy with that. And now you're going to play against bigger, stronger teams. Do you take something out of getting to the line 37 times, dominating the boards? Can you take something out of the Morris Hill game that you can use?
I think the alternative is not doing it. The alternative is not getting to the free throw line and not beating them on the glass and not beating them by the margin we did. So you have to play the team that's on your schedule. And, Coach Prosser used to say the greatest respect that you can pay an opponent is to crush them. And they're a very good program. And, Coach is a very, very good coach. And we knew they'd be really prepared. But our guys did what they were supposed to do.
But you feel the way you attacked the rim and drew fouls, that's something you'll be able to do going forward.
I'd like to. If you look at our shot spectrum, we haven't been getting to the line enough. We haven't been getting enough rim shots, which are the 2 highest percentage shots in the game. And a lot of times our higher volume of shots are from the 3-point line or from non-paint 2s or from paint 2s. And we want to up our free throw attempts and we want to up our rim shots. And, we did that in that game, and hopefully that can be a little bit of a pattern moving forward. Obviously, like you mentioned, you're going to play against more athletic teams. You're going to play against longer teams and probably more talented teams. But that was the mentality we took into the game and that we want to, apply to all of our games moving forward.
And generally, when you've watched the team over the last several years, you've got a guy or two who like to drive. Derrick Henry likes to drive. Joshua Davenport is more of a driver than a spot-up shooter. But you had a wide variety of guys get to the free throw line. Does it maybe kind of kick them in the butt and say, hey, you don't have to be a jump shooter. You can get to the line.
Yeah, and we're very calculated in everything we do. And we not only talk to our team about overall shot spectrum, if you will, but we talk to individuals as well. Keon Moore be an example. Keon's an elite scorer. He can really, really put the ball in the hole. But, we've been harping on him to attack the rim more and not, just settle, if you will, for his 3-point attempts. He has to attack the basket, get to the free throw line. He does that more and more. You mentioned some of those other guys that like to drive and attack the rim. It's amazing. Probably our most aggressive attacker to the basket and one of our most effective finishers at the basket, whether that's drawing fouls or finishing at the rim, is 5'4" tall. And, so I don't think it always has to do with how big you are. It's how big you play. And, Keon Johnson, who's I'm referring to, is a guy that really likes, to attack the basket. Sometimes I wish his field of vision would open up and he would see sometimes that there are 9 other players on the floor besides just him. But I tell you what, when the goal is in sight and he's hell-bent on getting there. It's hard to keep him from that basket, and that's why, he gets to the free throw line so much. He drives so aggressively.
Confidence is such a big part of the game. Sometimes if you're lagging in confidence, you can see a team get down. How important is a game like this to kind of, maybe start to get on a roll?
I think so. I mean, it always helps your confidence when you see the ball going in the basket and when you have success. Confidence is a powerful thing, as you guys know. It can take an average player to being a really good player, and a really good player to being a great player, and a good team to be a great team if you have that confidence. So hopefully the other night is a little bit of a catalyst in that regard.
We talked a little bit before the Morris Hill game about how you feel about your team, and things are moving along generally the way you had hoped. Obviously, you want more wins than losses, but Mike makes an interesting point about gaining confidence. It's not you who needs to gain confidence, it's the players. Did this game come at kind of the right time for your guys?
I think so. Like you said, I think everybody to a man, if you go down, the stat sheet into the roster, everybody did really,
Kellen Blake lit it up.
Kellen Blake lit it up. So hopefully that gives him a confidence on the scout team moving forward. But I think so. Coming off a tough loss at Maryland, whatever that margin ended up, 20 points, I think we'd all agree sitting here that it wasn't a 20-point game. We're right there fighting, scratching down the stretch to stay in the game. So, and even a couple of the tough losses we had at the buzzer, it's not like we were getting our head beat in. East Tennessee State made a really tough shot down the stretch. Savannah State made a shot at the buzzer. Jacksonville State made a shot at the buzzer. So I don't think our guys were really lacking of confidence. I think it was one of those things like, man, one of the breaks going to start going our way a little bit. And that's just the way I feel about our team. I don't think anybody's hanging their head or feeling sorry for themselves. We take the floor against Maryland. We take their floor against Auburn. We take the floor expecting, anticipating, and playing to win the game.
Generally, especially with a team like yours that had a little inexperience, some young guys playing, usually a rotation figures itself out. Do you feel as though you've got a rotation? It's more players than most teams would be using on a regular basis. You've got, 9, 10 guys that are seeing significant minutes. Will that get cut down in the next couple of weeks, or do you feel pretty good about playing all those guys?
That's a good question. Usually when you get the conference play, your bench shortens a little bit, your rotations change a little bit. We're not at that point yet. I think I've told this to you and on the air and off the air conversations. Like I don't know my team well enough yet, just because of the new parts, the fact that some of those guys missed so much significant time early on, and we're still trying to figure out, what our team is all about in terms of who's going to be contributing and who's not on the floor as you move forward into conference play. And, playing in these tough games here in the preseason are going to help us figure that out.
Do you expect, or maybe expect's the wrong word, do you keep in the back of your mind how the rotation change if you get a Zach Price or a Larry Brown in? If those guys are able to play, how that impacts what you're doing now?
You think about it. Obviously, a post player that's proven, that experience, that obviously there's only so many post players you can play. There's only so many guards you can play. There's 200 minutes in a game, and there's 40 minutes at each position. So obviously that would impact it. I'm not really going to deal in hypotheticals at this point. I think we'll let that process play itself out, figure out whether they can or can't play, and then adjust from there.
Is there also an element of playing so many guys that, it prepares yourself in case something, you never think about things happening, but the positive right now is if, God forbid, something happens, a lot of guys are used to having some playing time.
No, I think that's a good point. But then also, I think we're playing so many guys right now because the guys that are maybe playing the number 8, the number 9, the number 10 position have really, really high ceilings. Mm-hmm. And I think the way to get those guys better is to get them game action.
Yeah.
Now, you can't do it at the expense of a win and at the expense of a loss or wins and losses. But I just think it's sometimes if it stunts your growth a little bit in the short term, but it's going to pay major dividends in the long term, you have to get those guys, reps and game minutes. And they make mistakes, maybe more mistakes than some of the other guys are allowed to make, but you give them a little bit more rope to let them play through mistakes here and a mistake there. But I think down the road, by getting that experience, is going to make our team, those guys, better.
Have you had one player that has been the biggest surprise to you so far this year? Anyone that stood out?
Yeah, I just think at different times, all of those new guys have really stepped up. I mean, the guy that's Old Faithful that you can just rely on, and he's as reliable as the day's long, as a guy like Tevin Prescott. You know, I mean, you just know what you're going to get from him every single night. So I wouldn't call that a surprise, but it's just comforting to know you have that steadying presence at that position all the time. But all those newcomers that have come in, I think at various times have done really good things. Doobie shows flashes, I think you guys would admit. I think Joey Lopez does some things from time to time where he raises your eyebrows a little bit and gets you excited. I think like a guy like Xavier Cooks, you guys probably see it as a freshman trying to learn two positions, playing the three, playing the floor, a la Joey Jerome is really exciting as well. You see some of the stuff he does and some of our sets, backdoor passes, no-look passes, just those feel things, I think gives you a great excitement for sort of what's to come.
We're live at Buffalo Wild Wings. It's our Winthrop Basketball Coaches Show. If you've got questions for Coach Kelsey, you can ask via Twitter using hashtag WooCoaches. That's hashtag WUCoaches. We'll come back and talk about what's on the upcoming slate for the Eagles on the Winthrop Sports Network. We're back at Buffalo Wild Wings off Dave Lyle Boulevard in Rock Hill. It's our Winthrop Coaches Show, joined by men's coach Pat Kelsey. I'm Dave Friedman with Mike Pacheco. Radio only next week for the show. You can listen on the Winthrop Sports Network. Our next visit here will be January 7th. You can get the complete schedule for the Coaches Show online at winthropeagles.com. The men's team will be back home December 21st to take on Reinhardt before conference play begins on December 31st against Longwood. The women are at home this Saturday night taking on Davidson. Tickets 803-323-2345. 323-2345 or online at winthropeagles.com. But the men are off on the road next week. The team is off for finals right now. Next Wednesday, they'll take on Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers. This is a team that you beat a couple of years ago, though the roster is almost entirely different. The coaching staff is different. The style is different. And apparently the number of fans is much different as well. When you go into scheduling these guaranteed games, Clemson, who you beat, Maryland, who you were very competitive with, and Auburn, who is very much in transition, obviously you're looking to pair it with Southeastern Louisiana for the travel aspect of it. How much of it is this is a team in a big conference that we have an opportunity to get?
Well, I mean, I don't know if that is the reason you play somebody. Scheduling's hard, as you know. Sometimes it's like putting a square peg in a round hole, trying to match a date that you have available with a date that somebody else has. And then obviously, when you're talking guarantee games, there's contractual issues that come up, and there's money issues that are involved. So, when we're on the road recruiting in July, and the big coaching fraternity, we're out there, we're sitting next to each other in gymnasiums. Every coach you talk to, you have a scheduling conversation. Do you need games? Are you looking for games? Yes, we need games. What are your dates? Here are my dates. Here's the email address for my coach that's handling scheduling. Contact him, contact me. And then you go to the next gym, you sit next to the next coach, and you have the same conversation again. So that's sort of how it goes. I mean, it ended up just being Maryland, Clemson, and Auburn, but we probably talked to 50 other schools as well. And it just so happened that this date worked and it worked out. Obviously, it's a much different team and program than it was several years ago. Different style that we're going to play against, and they're going to be ready for us when we come down there.
Before we move on with Auburn, question that Dave asked Coach Cook, I thought it'd be good to ask you as well when you talk about scheduling. Is there a place that maybe you want to go? Do you have a team that you think would be good to bring your team to?
I'd love to play the Hawaii Rainbows, Rainbow Warriors. That'd be a good trip. Maybe Honolulu or something like that.
Let's play Hawaii, Hilo, and 3 other schools well over there. BYU, Hawaii.
Yeah, Mark and I have talked about it before. It's kind of, I think it'd be kind of neat to play at Xavier, but at the same time, it'd be really hard too because that's sort of home. And
sure,
I got hundreds and hundreds of people that I know or family members that are fans. It would just be. It would be a lot, but having the opportunity to coach there against those guys, I think would be kind of cool as well.
Auburn's game is not for a week, not until next Wednesday, but you guys have been off a couple days now. When do you start looking at them? When does your players start looking at them?
We'll get into the specific scout on Saturday or this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. But, that's what we tell our guys. So we'll actually go into personnel. We'll go into actual scouting actions and things like that. But we a lot of times when you have a long time before the next game, you can kind of do a Jedi mind trick a little bit on them, and you can sprinkle in some preparation and some scouting things in the practice sessions that they don't even know. We're working on a specific concept, and it's because that scout, but you don't tell them that. So that's kind of what we're doing now. We played the other night. We had one off day. We practiced today, but we were probably on the floor for about an hour and 5 minutes. Not a lot of contact, did a lot of 5-on-0, got up and down the floor a little bit to keep their heart rate up and their conditioning. And then they'll be off again tomorrow to have a full day, and then most of the day on Saturday, and then we'll practice on Saturday evening. And then, like I said, we'll start turning our attention more to Auburn late in the weekend, probably toward the end of practice Saturday or Sunday. Right now, these next couple of practices are pretty much just about us.
Winthrop has a history with Bruce Pearl that was a close but no cigar situation. When you look at this version of his team, how similar is it to what he ran at Wisconsin, Milwaukee, or Tennessee, or any of his other stops?
Well, I don't know entirely because I don't know. I never played Coach Pearl at Tennessee. Obviously, I watched him play. Never really watched his teams at Milwaukee. All I can tell you is more about what his current team does. The one thing that we stole from them at Wake Forest for a while is how we defend baseline out of bounds plays, which is a ultra aggressive, trying to create turnovers on baseline out of bounds plays. So they put the tallest player on the court on the ball. Doesn't matter if you have a 5'4" guy taking the ball out of bounds. They're going to put the 7-footer they have on the floor on the ball, and then they put their four-man on your 5-man out on the floor, and then 3-2-1 on the rest of the players, and then they switch everything, and they just try to deny, deflect, and steal. And that's something that when you play against his teams, you really, really have to be ready for and prepare for because they really wreak havoc in that regard. And I know they're doing that at Auburn. And I know they did that at Tennessee because we sort of stole it from them. But other than that, I don't know how the two styles relate.
Does his style, and I'm not talking X's and O's, but his kind of demeanor and his excitement level that attracts fans and maybe attracts players, do you have a little bit of that in you?
I don't know him personally. I met him a couple times. Seems like a guy that has a lot of energy, and I have a lot of flaws, as you guys know, but one of the flaws that I don't have is a lack of energy. And that's sort of my MO. That's how I'm wired. That's my DNA, so to speak. But obviously he's wired that way as well. Times I met him on the road and spent time with him, sit next to him at a game, he's always been very, very friendly and very cordial. fact, he was at Southern Indiana as a Division II coach for a long, long time, and they were bitter conference rival foes with Northern Kentucky. And my entire family, my brother, my brother-in-law, and my sister all played at Northern. My brother-in-law played against Coach Pearl quite a bit. So, they're very familiar with him as well. We had some heated battles, but he's a really, really good coach and a very good competitor, and he'll be ready for us, I'm sure, when we get down there.
They play this weekend at Clemson. I believe, though, correct me if I'm wrong, that you wouldn't be allowed to go to that game even if you wanted to, but you'll get the tape shortly after the game concludes. How much does it help you to watch them play against a team that you've played against?
I think it'll help because there's familiarity, obviously, in the personnel that'll be in the game. The other thing that'll be good about watching the Clemson game is they defend in a similar manner that we do. It's almost like before we played Maryland, it's almost like we had a cheat sheet because we got to watch them play Virginia. Virginia defends in the exact same style that we do. So in that regard, I think it'll be really good. It's going to be an interesting game because if you look in the early part of the season, some of the teams that have given us trouble are the teams that, really try to wreak havoc a little bit and change up defenses and do a bunch of different things. Like they're really, really on the defensive end. That on paper, they have very talented offensive players when I watch them on tape and unbelievably capable. But they've labored a little bit to score. But one way that they really manufacture offense is through their defense. And they're going to guard every floorboard. They're going to put a 4-man on the ball with his feet actually over the inbound line, trying to deflect the inbound, going 94 feet. When it comes in, they're going to trap you once, they're going to trap you twice, they're going to trap you 3 times. They're just going to try to overwhelm you in the backcourt. And we got to have great poise and an attacking mentality against that to make sure we can put them in the half court and make them guard us.
You mentioned that you'll get into their scout with the players primarily this weekend. You had practice today. Obviously, you're getting up shots. You're doing skill development. But is there anything in specific you're trying to hone right now?
We worked a little bit, on some of this. I guess it doesn't matter, but we worked a lot on our, not really our ball screen system. We worked a lot on our off-ball screening system today. And sometimes it takes slowing down a little bit, getting away from a scout and a prep to kind of like work on the nuances of that type of stuff. Being intelligent screeners and cutters, reading the defense, understanding whether they whip a screen, that's when you change your angle and flare back. If it's a chase, then it's a chase dribble curl, and you look for your buddy pass in the pot. All that stuff is sort of coach speak for little nuances that you really got to devote time to get better at. And sometimes when you're going prep, game, prep, game, prep, it's hard to get down into the minute little details. So some of those things are what we worked on today.
The conference season is right down the road, a couple weeks away. I don't assume that you're doing it, but are your assistants beginning to look at tape of your league foes?
I think so. Those guys all at the beginning of the year have the list of teams that they prep for and that they scout for. And I know that they do advanced work so that, if they maybe have a scout game and then another scout, they're already working on that next one a little bit as well. But, I know they're already sort of building the portfolio, if you will. At least I know our video coordinator, Matt Griggs, he's as organized as the day's long. He's already got, games implemented of all of our future opponents. You guys know this, man. The Big South's good this year. The Big South is stinking good. You look at some of these wins, whether it's Coast beating Auburn the other night in SEC. We've had 3 ACC wins and in Radford beating Virginia Tech. And we beat Clemson, and Gardner-Webb beat Clemson. And top to bottom, our league is going to be very, very hotly contested, very competitive. And I'm looking forward to it.
With finals going on right now, how much do you not necessarily dial back and practice with the mental stuff, but maybe doing more of the physical things just so you're not weighing down too much on the main brain side?
You're saying you would think you'd scale back on the physical stuff?
No, scale back on maybe throwing a lot of mental stuff at him and let him just.
That's probably why I'm dumb, because we were doing more mental stuff today and less physical. But we wanted to do more of a. We used to call them run and shoot practices. We're doing a lot of running, getting a lot of reps up, and working on little nuances, more 5-on-0 or maybe 2-on-1 screening actions and things like that. We didn't want to come in today and make it hand-to-hand combat where we were, beating each other up and stuff. The mental fatigue that they have right now in terms of attacking exams is pretty significant. And we want it to be short and sweet, high energy, spirited, and get them the heck out. And, you know, and hopefully they can attack those exams with the same way they're going to attack Auburn next week.
When you talk to them about the exams, can you address, and I think the people really inside the building know, but for the fans that aren't at the Coliseum all day, every day, what sort of resources do your players have?
Well, you know, as you know, Joanna Harris is our academic advisor in the entire athletic department, but with men's basketball as well. And she's phenomenal. I mean, you walk into her office and it seems like she's got 74 plates spinning, and they're all spinning in perfect unison. And then you ask her for something else, and somehow she can find an extra hand to get that done for you as well. So she's extremely, extremely vigilant, and hardworking, and organized, staying on top of our guys. And then, you know, we do a good job within our staff of dividing up our roster to assign certain players to certain coaches to oversee sort of, you know, making sure that their I's are dotted and their T's are crossed. They're staying organized. They're on top of what's coming up in terms of papers and exams and things like that. And, you know, it takes a village. And you know, with somebody like Joanna Harris at the helm, we're lucky to have someone as talented as her.
I'm just glad we're not taking finals.
Me either. I can remember walking out of my last final my senior year at Xavier, and literally thinking, I don't ever want to take another test the rest of my life.
Have you succeeded?
Although we have that NCAA test every July or every June before we go on the road, so that's the one that you sort of the advantage of no choice. You got to take that one.
Coach, thanks so much for your time.
All right, fellas, thank you.
Thanks,
Winthrop
Coach.
men's coach Pat Kelsey, as the men are at Auburn next Wednesday, at Southeastern Louisiana next Friday, and home for Reinhardt December 21st before league play begins on the 31st. The women are home for Davidson Saturday and then head to Wichita for a tournament against George Mason and Wichita State. For tickets, 803-323-2345, 323-2345. For the coaches and Mike Pacheco, for Austin Peak back in studio and our crew here at Buffalo Wild Wings, I'm Dave Friedman. We'll talk to you next time on the Winthrop Sports Network.